Chemical bonding part 1. In this section we're going to look at part 1, chemical bonding. Chemical bonding is a general term for the bond created when electrons of two atoms interact and rearrange into a new form that allows the atoms to become attached to each other. These electrons are going to bond together in the outer shell of the atom. The first shell has room for only two electrons. For example, the atom helium, which is a very inert atom because it can only handle two electrons. So those electrons tend not to go anywhere and won't react. The next level is the second shell, which can hold up to 8 electrons. This 8 electron shell is what's called the octet rule, where atoms on the outer shells can only hold up to 8 electrons. Atoms that form bonds to fill the outer shell with electrons. When the atoms bond with other electrons, the molecules are formed. Atoms of different elements bond and chemical compounds are formed. The major types of bonding we're going to cover in chemical bonding later are ionic, covalent, and hydrogen. Bonding for stability. These atoms are going to bond to become more stable. This is accomplished by filling the atom's outer shell with electrons. Again, the first shell can only have 2 electrons. Here you have hydrogen, for an example, where you have the atoms by themselves are less stable. When they share electrons, they become more stable because the electrons fill the outer shells. Next, we have molecular formula, which tells you the number of atoms in the formula. Next, we have structural formula, which gives you a two-dimensional representation plus the number of atoms in the molecule in question. Here we have another example of structural formula. We have the molecule methane. Here you see 4 atoms of hydrogen bonded to carbon. The straight line here represents sharing of 2 electrons. Here we have structural formula for double bond and triple bonds. The example here, carbon dioxide, where you have 2 double bonds here and 2 double bonds here. The next is the ball and stick model and the space filling model. Ball and stick represents graphically the molecule as it rotates in nature, and the space filling molecule is more representative of the three-dimensional structure you'll see in the true atom. Chemical bonding here, this part shows the stages of reaction where you have carbon plus 4 hydrogen. The red arrow indicates the reaction direction, yielding CH4, which is methane. Study guide, remember to study chemical bonding, molecules, compounds, bonding stability, molecular formula, structural formula, and other chemical bonding models. Go to part 2.